Hi friends, today we are going to discuss another design pattern called sharding pattern. Now, in this pattern, what we do is instead of having all the data stored in a single place, we divide this data into small components called shards. So shard is a broken piece of something in a literal sense. So in sharding pattern, we divide our data into small components, and these components are hosted at different places on different instances. They may or may not be on the same physical instance. For example, what can happen is you can keep data like this. So there are three physical instances, and you have divided all your data into six shards, where instead of having all the data on a single physical instance, now you have now sharded your data, or you have distributed your data across three instances in six shards. And when, for example, if your traffic pattern increases, for example, let's say the traffic on this particular shard is high, what you can do is you can spin up another instance and you can move this shard to another physical instance. So in summary, this is sharding pattern. Now let's try to delve deeper into why do we need sharding. The basic use case of sharding is when you are keeping all your data in a single place, what is going to happen? This instance is going to have limited CPU, limited memory, limited disk, limited network, right? You can keep on increasing all these parameters, but only up to a certain extent, right? You cannot infinitely increase your system resources on a single instance. Also, if this instance fails, all your data is lost. Whereas in this case, if one of the instance fails, only the shards that are present on that physical instance will be unavailable for some time. Other shards will continue to work as if nothing happened to them. Also, if you want, you can keep these shards at different geographical locations. For example, you can keep this shard in US, you can keep this shard in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. You can also distribute your data geographically if you have divided your data into small components or into shards. So this is called sharding or horizontal scaling. You are basically horizontally scaling your database. Initially, you had limitation that you had only one database or one instance. Now you have power of four instances. So, for example, if these instance was this instance could have scaled to X CPUs. So now you can scale your servers to 4x CPUs. For example, let's say it had 128 core RAM, 128 core CPUs. Now you can have 4 into 128 core CPUs because you have divided your data into small pieces or small shards. Also, since your data is distributed, your queries are also going to be distributed. So your read load and write load is going to be distributed across the shards. So that is another advantage of why you should divide your database or data into small components and spread it across multiple instances. So there is no single point of failure also. Let's try to see some intricacies of sharding pattern. In a single database, what you had to do, you just had to query your data and you would have got your data. But when you are moving to a sharded system, for example, it has three shards, and in each shard, in each three physical instances, you have shard 1, shard 2, and shard 3, right? So how are you going to know which shard or which physical instance has your data? For that, you need some logic to convert to know where your data resides. So for that, you are going to keep a sharding key. Sharding key is some data in your database or some attribute of your data which is going to decide where a particular data is going to go. For example, it can be a customer ID. So on the basis of customer ID, you can decide where your data is going to go. In the next in couple of minutes, we are going to see how we can shard our data, or what are the different ways to shard our data. But the basic premise is a data for a customer ID is going to be in a single shard. For example, this can have C1, CN, and this can have C2, C5, like this can have C7, C9, like that. So this is the sharding key which decides where your particular data for that attribute resides, and decision of sharding key depends on your query pattern, on what attributes are you most frequently accessing your data. Those attributes can be used as sharding key. For example, you can have multi column or multi attribute sharding key. For example, you can have customer ID and let's say order ID. That can be a sharding key. It can be anything. It depends on two factors. First of all, it should not be updatable, because if your sharding key updates, for example, uh, if your sharding key updates, then what is going to happen? At one point, sharding your data had sharding key X, so it was residing on shard S1. Now, for the same data, you have updated your sharding key, or for example, let's say you have updated the customer ID for that order. Now, what is going to happen is now it becomes Y, right? So what is going to happen is it may not have to reside on this shard. The data for customer Y should have been present on shard S2. So what you would have to do is you will have an overhead to migrate this data to its appropriate shard. So that's why generally what we prefer is to have a constant sharding key which is not updatable, so that your data remain consistent throughout the system. Another thing is that it should be frequently on the basis of sharding key, you should access your data. That makes your queries more optimized. Though there are going to be cases where you may not be using sharding keys for querying those data, for querying data, but those query cases should be minimal, so that they can handle a little bit inefficiency in the query. And most of the queries, or most frequent queries, should have sharding keys present in it. So let's try to see some of the sharding strategies that we can use. First sharding strategy is lookup strategy. In this sharding strategy, what we do is we keep a lookup table, or we keep a lookup cache which determines where a particular sharding key, this is sharding key, and this is shard. Where does a particular sharding key reside? For example, if you have C1, then it can keep S1, C2, S1, C3, S2, C4, S3, like this. So you are keeping real-time mapping of where does a particular customer details or customer details reside. So anytime your application, so this is your application, and it needs to access, and let's say this is our, we have these shards which are present. Anytime our application wants to find where does our data reside, what it can do is it can keep this sharding logic with itself, and it can just go to that shard, right, and fetch the data. For example, if request for C1 comes, it can basically look up this logic and then go to its corresponding shard. For example, it will go to shard S1. Right. So this is the lookup strategy. What you can do is, instead of directly storing where does a particular shard reside, you can also use redirection. For example, you can keep virtual shards. What does virtual shard means? You are not directly storing the place where the data is stored, you are keeping a pointer to that storage. Like this case, this is also a case of virtual shards, where you are basically not directly accessing the data, you are accessing the data via virtual shards. We're not going to go much in depth regarding virtual shards and virtual sharding, but it is fairly easy. You will be able to understand it. Let's move on to the next strategy, which is range-based lookup. In the lookup range-based sharding, in this, what you do is you keep, rather than C1 S1, what you do is you keep C1 to C5 in S1, and this is sharding key, and this is shard, and C5 to C10 in S2, like this. So you're basically keeping a range of shard keys and mapping them to a particular shard. So what is going to happen is, if you had queries like give me data for all the customers C1 to C5, so you will be able to fetch that data from single shard. Otherwise, in your previous case, you would have to query multiple shards to retrieve those data. So what is going to happen is, your query is going to come to your application. You are going to look up the shard table, which is going to give you shards where the data is saved, and you can retrieve that data. Other more apt example of range-based sharding is, what you can do is you can create month-wise shards. So what you can do is you can have a shard for October. It can reside on S1. You can have shard for November. It can reside on S2. So what is going to happen is, if you wanted to access all the orders that were created in October, earlier you would have to go on multiple shards. This data for a particular month was distributed across multiple shards, but in this case, all the data is going to be present in a single shard, so you can just query that. So if you have range queries, then it makes sense to use range-based lookup. Also, in other cases also, range-based lookup can help you, but it can lead to hot shards in cases, for example, if November is the latest month, then all the insert, updates and reads are going to be in shard S2. So S2 is going to have high utilization, whereas other shards are going to have low resource utilization. So that is one of the drawbacks of range-based lookup. And what generally happens is, in your system, you can create your key like, your sharding key can be like date. In this date, what is going to happen is, your month is going to be the shard ID, which decides where that shard resides, and date and time finds out the row of that data, or rows of those data, because in range-based sharding, what we generally do is we are sorting the data on the sharding keys, right? So all the November month order are going to be in this shard, and they are going to be sorted by date and time. So that is one of the advantages of range-based sharding. Now another sharding strategy is hash strategy. In this strategy, what we do is we are going to take the sharding key. Let's say it is the SK. We are going to implement a hash function which gives us the appropriate shard where data is saved or data should be retrieved from. So this logic can be present in our application. it is you are going to receive request. You are going to get the sharding keys from the request. Then you are going to know the shard ID or actual shard where the data is saved, and then you can access that shard. Now, advantages of hash-based sharding is, in normal cases, you are going to get uh, hot shard problem because data may not be evenly distributed across shards. But in hash-based sharding, what you can do is you can select a hash function which evenly distribute the hashes of your sharding keys. So your data is evenly distributed across the different shards in your data cluster. This improves the resource utilization of your cluster instances. Now, since we know all these three strategies, let's try to see pros and cons of these strategies. In lookup strategy, having an additional lookup in your application is going to create application overhead. It is going to affect your application performance. Also, if you use virtual sharding, then you may save yourself from directly mapping sharding key and the physical shard in your application. This basically saves you from doing application changes when you want to move your shards from one physical instance to another physical instance. In range-based lookup, it is easier to implement because you are storing a bunch of keys in a single shard, and then if your access pattern is also range-based, then it is going to provide an advantage. But in cases of hot shards, your data replication, or not data replication, but data redistribution is going to be a challenge. For example, if your latest month is a hot shard, then it is going to be a problem, because even if you break down your latest shard into day-wise shards, for example, then also your latest day is going to be a challenge. Similarly, if your data is customer based, range based lookup, then for example, if C5 is a hot shard, then it is going to impact all the customers that are present in this shard, right? So that is one of the issues with the range based lookup. Hash based lookup provides even load distribution across the instances, but it provides a drawback that shard data redistribution is going to be a challenge, because how are you going to handle old data? For example, if you want to redistribute some data, or if you want to increase the number of shards, then hash based lookup can create problems in your strategy. Also, in hash based lookup, you may save yourself from not having to do an extra lookup that we had to do for range based sharding and lookup based sharding. So that provides an application performance improvement. Now, these were your sharding strategies, but the decision on which you're going to make sharding it can depend on your workload, how your workload is accessing the data, how it is writing the data. So that is going to impact your sharding strategy. Also, if you want to do geo-based sharding, for example, you want to distribute data of multiple regions into different shards, then it is going to impact your sharding strategy that you're doing geo-based sharding. Also, if you want to do, you want to create different levels of service for your customers. For example, high paying customer can be provided a single shard, whereas low paying customer can be clubbed up into a single shard. For example, this can be C1 only. This shard is for C1 only, whereas this shard is for C2, C3, C4, C5, and this shard is for C3 and C2, and this shard is for C5. Right. So in this case, what you have done is you are providing different types of service or different SLAs in your service depending on your client priorities. Also, if any client has data isolation requirement, what you can do is you can provide another shard or another separate shard to that client. So this is also possible if you have sharding implemented. So if customer 10 comes, that he wants data isolation for security and compliance, then you can spin up a different shard and give him his separate shard only if your sharding strategies support data redistribution. One thing I forgot to explain in lookup based strategy is, if you have lookup based strategy and your C1 customer one's data is on shard 1, and for some reason you want to move this customer to some other shard, what you have to do is you just have to, let's say this is shard 1 and this is shard 2. You want to move customer 1 from shard 1 to shard 2. All you have to do is you have to first move the data from behind, not move the data, copy the data from in the background, and once that this data is available in shard 2, you can change the mapping in your lookup table from S1 to S2. You can basically remove this S1 and your data will now be available in S2, and all the places where this lookup table is being cached should be updated so that there is no stale pointing of customer 1 in shard 1. So data movement is very easier in lookup strategy. In range strategies, it is also easier, because you just have to update if C1 to C5 are present in shard 1 and you want to move shard 5 to let's say shard 2. What you have to do is you have to change this entry to C1 to C4 in shard 1 and then C5 in shard 2, like this. You have to break up those entries and it is going to provide data movement pattern. Whereas in hash based lookup, this is going to be a challenge, because hash is a static function which you are using to get the shard values or the shard IDs. So it is hashing strategy provides a disadvantage when you want to move your data, and it is going to complicate your movement. Data movement can be possible, but it is going to be complicated. Now, whenever you are determining the sharding strategy suitable for your use case, you have to keep certain things in mind. Let's discuss them one by one. First of all, you have to ensure that your shards are being equally utilized. All the resources are being equally utilized. This is going to help in better cost savings, because if all the shards are equally utilized, you can use your cluster more efficiently. Also, you should plan for future in mind. For example, if you know that your traffic is going to grow 10x, then you should decide the number of shards as well as the size of shards, keeping this future traffic in mind. This is going to provide great advantages when you actually receive 10x traffic. But premature optimization can also be an issue, so you should also keep that in mind. Another thing, always use shard key which is not updatable. That is going to prevent data movement when for example, if one shard key was present in here and its shard key was basically updated, so that now this data has to be migrated to this shard. This is going to provide a challenge to your application. So try to keep shard keys which are not updatable. It goes without saying that your shard keys should be unique throughout the cluster. Throughout the cluster, they should be unique. So S1, SK1 should always point to a single record in your cluster. This is going, if that is not the case, then it is going to create challenges in your system. Also, for shard keys, you should prevent yourself from using auto implement keys, because using auto implement keys without having proper system is going to be a challenge. For example, if you use auto increment keys, then auto increment key for a shard key in shard 1 can collide with auto increment key in the shard 2, and if these auto shard keys collide, then it is going to create inconsistency in your system. You should decide your shard keys keeping the most frequent queries in mind. You may not be able to find a shard key which supports all your query use cases. So you should solve the most frequent use cases, and for less frequent use cases, if you want further optimization in less frequent use cases, what you can do is you can create mapping of index table. Basically, this is called index table, where you are some key, for some key or some attribute, you can map it to the shard key. For example, if you want to search by name, so you can keep Palash, and it is going to give the shard key 1, sk1, and you can then use sk1 to access your cluster, depending on whether you are using hash lookup, range lookup, or lookup based normal lookup based strategy. So this provides secondary index for optimizing your less frequent queries. Also, there can be use cases where you may have to retrieve data from multiple shards, but to begin with, you should design a system in mind so that you are querying only single shard. That is going to improve your system performance. But if you have to query multiple shards, you should evaluate if you can denormalize that data so that you are only querying a particular shard. For example, if you have to query, let's say, order data and customer data, if you have not kept something in mind that you should query only single shard, so what could happen is your order data for a particular O1, and this customer which created order is C1, your O1 can be present on this shard and your C1 can be present on this shard. So order data will have to be retrieved from this shard and customer data will have to be retrieved from this shard. It is going to create inefficiency in your system. So you should design a system so that both order data and customer data are present on a single shard. This is called denormalization. So that, not denormalization, but you should ensure that all the data is present on a single shard. Not necessarily, but it is going to improve your system's performance. But even if this is not possible and you have to query multiple shards, what you should do is you should use parallel queries. That is going to improve your system performance. I know this is a very obvious thing, but this is something that you should keep in mind when you're designing the system. So if you have to query two different shards or multiple shards, then you should query them in parallel. That is going to improve the system performance. Now, when you're designing your system, you are always going to have a question whether you should keep less number of shards or more number of shards. For example, if you should keep a bigger and lesser number of shards, or you should keep smaller and large number of shards, then having smaller and large number of shards provides an advantage because it can scale easily, whereas having less number of shards is going to be a scalability, it can create scalability challenges. Scalability challenges in the form that if your shards are small, and for example, let's say this shard crashes, what you can do is you can basically either spin up a new shard for this shard S1 using the backup that you have taken for this shard, or you can, if you have replicas or on other databases, then basically you can move that data from, for example, if you have replica of S1 on shard S2, replica of shard S1 on shard S2, then you can basically move this data to some other shard, or you can basically create another shard for S1, whereas if you had bigger and smaller number of bigger shards, then data movement is going to take time, which is going to increase inefficiency in your system during system recoveries. Also, whenever you are deciding the number of shards and the size of shards, you should keep in mind that future traffic is going to increase. If future traffic is going to increase, are your shards ready to handle that future traffic? Are they future proof? So it is not, it does not have a definitive answer, but it is going to affect the decisions that you take for a sharding strategy. Another thing that you should keep in mind is if there is some data which is frequently accessed and For example, there is a small metadata that is frequently accessed with all the data, and it is not updatable or very less frequently updated. Then what you can do is, instead of sharding that data, you can replicate that data on all the shards. So it is going to take a bit of extra space, but it improves your system, not efficiency, but it improves the system architecture, that uh, you don't have to you don't have to look up at different places to get that data, to fetch that data. All that data is present in a single place, and it is going to improve your system design. But if you are replicating this data on all the shards, and if the data is updated in one of, if this less frequently updated data, seldomly updated data is updated on one of the shards, then for some duration, till the time this data is replicated to all the shards, this data is going to be in, data in other shards is going to be in inconsistent state. So you should design a system which can handle the eventual consistency of reference data. Now, if you have data distributed across multiple shards, then there are going to be cases where you may have to update data on multiple shards. For example, in a single transaction, you may get cases where you have to update data that is present on this and on this shard. And in this case, it is going to be a challenge to implement transaction in a distributed environment is a challenge. And it is, if you are not using the transaction, then it is your system is going to be eventually consistent. On your application should handle the edge cases of distributed transaction, and it should understand that your application is going to be eventually consistent, and there are going to be phases during the change in which your application may not be in consistent state. Now, in summary, doing transactions in a distributed or sharded database can be a challenge. There are some ways to do that, like two-phase commit, but they have their own limitations. So either what you can do is you can create your application which can handle distributed transactions, either using external locks, and it should be well tested and robust application. Another point you should keep in mind is, since you're having large number of smaller shards, then maintaining these shards, like monitoring their maintenance, their logging, is going to be tricky. So you should have well automated systems which can handle all the infra level tasks and operational tasks on this shard, so that working of shards is smooth. We have discussed sharding. One of the other advantages of sharding is, what you can do is, if you have a global application and your customers are residing in America or in multiple geographies, not America, but in any geography, what you can do is you can create shards for those region customers at places which are nearer to those nearer to the geography. For example, for American customers, you can create a shard near the American region. For Indian shards, you can create a shard for Indian region. And similarly, you can geolocate those shards, and then your application can provide better performance, because it is going to serve its customers with data that is nearer to them, from data that is nearer to them. To summarize, sharding is a very good strategy, but it is required only when your application is about to scale, and you know that your data is going, or your application is going to grow beyond the capabilities of a single resource, and you want high availability. So that's all for the sharding pattern. It's a very vast topic, so I tried to cover as many points that I can find. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know your views and comments. Thank you and have a nice day.